How is everybody doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. I wanted to show that clip from Joe Biden doing well, we'll just leave it right there. If everything works out based on the speech tonight, we won't have to see much more of that going forward. My name is Kyle Suggs. This is the Kyle Suggs Show. This is the Conservative Take. And I just finished watching the Trump announcement speech at Mar-a-Lago, where he says he's going to run for president. And I thought the speech was pretty compelling, pretty somber, low key. He was relaxed. He came out very matter of fact. And what I'm going to talk about here is essentially the fact that we're in primary mode. So I'm not really going to be promoting. I'm probably voting for Trump. I'm telling you right now. But the point is that I'm not voting for Democrats, and I'm always going to vote. So whoever's the nominee has a good chance with me. So let's leave it there. I'm not going to talk about DeSantis as much because now we're in primary season. I want to focus mainly on President Trump and his speech tonight. I thought it was very, very good because one thing I forgot was how good we actually had it. I actually talked about this on Facebook. I put several things out. I'm going to highlight those things as well. I mentioned this after the live stream on Rumble. So I'm going to rehash some of that. So let me go to the comments here to make sure I sound okay, make sure there's no problems with what I'm saying. I guess everybody can hear me. Okay, cool. So we are going to be, okay, cool. We're good. So anyway, I want to just thank everybody for coming on. And again, so just want to talk about the speech. And I have some things here up on Facebook that I want to just comment on. And the main thing I talked about in the beginning was I forgot how good we had it and that Trump is seriously laying out his case for president. Okay. Now, regardless of how you feel about, him running for office or any of that, regardless of how you feel about that, the important thing to know is that there's a case for someone running against the Biden administration because there's so much stuff that's been done to this country at such a rapid pace that it has really turned this country on its head, where people just don't feel safe. They don't feel that anyone cares about them. Certainly not in the federal government. Certainly not in election integrity. People are shouting at the top of the roofs about let's lock down these elections. Let's talk about this crisis at the border. Let's talk about this crime rate. Let's talk about inflation. And no one's talking about it. It's this continual gaslighting of everyone and this frustration. Especially, you look at this last election just a couple of days ago. Kari Lake absolutely had the votes to win that election, but with these mail-in ballots and the corruption of the Arizona Maricopa County, they weren't going to let that happen. And so there's a lot of frustration and a lot of despair. I see it on Facebook where people are saying, well, he shouldn't run because he's going to lose anyway, or he's going to do this, he's going to do that. But I'm going to tell a quick story at the end of this. I mentioned it on my Facebook wall and on my status. It's about John Quincy Adams. So stick around. This is probably going to go for about another 30 minutes. I'm not going to make this long. I'm going to go through the comments, talk about the people who are online, get some reactions, and talk about my assessment of the speech and about where I think this is going to go, because this is a long haul from now onto Inauguration Day in January of 2000. I guess I'll be 25. So yeah, it's going to be a long haul, but let me just start with people who are online right now. Sunshine Happy Lady, you're on here early. Thank you so much for being you, the first one on here. She says, President Trump, you have my vote again. Trump 2024. Red, black, and green says Trump 2024. Greetings from Florida. How's Florida down there, Sunshine Happy Lady? I want to get down there soon because wintertime is coming, and we were actually in Christmas season there last year, and it was pretty different. It's pretty different to see the houses in South Florida decorated with palm trees or lights and all kind of stuff. It's cool. I really enjoyed Christmas in Florida last year. I wouldn't mind doing that again this year. And Mark Jackson, as always, thank you, Mark. And there's people who don't support Trump. That's great. I think we can all agree that we need a different direction. I mean, we can all agree on that, right? And whether it be DeSantis or somebody else, just as long as it's not Mike Pence. I mean, can we all agree that as long as it's not Mike Pence, we should be okay? And as long as it's not some sort of establishment rhino, that we should be okay? Personally, I want Trump for reasons that are personal. I think 2020, I won't go any further there. I'll comment on another video. But I think it's just a matter of general principle, period. General principle. That's why, to me, this is personal. But for the love of the country, I think we can do much better, 10 times better than what we have now. But let's get into some things that he said, because I want to get into election integrity. Because he mentioned this, which is probably the biggest thing he mentioned in the speech, I think. And this is this. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, same-day voting, national ID, and paper ballots. And to me, that is probably the most, if you had a focus group, I think this would be one of the ones that would be the highest of the focus group in terms of people reacting to it, because that's something that's really, really bipartisan. And so with that, I'm going to jump in real quickly here and give a quick plug of what I'm doing with something called the Patriot Academy. And the Patriot Academy is something that is with Rick Green and Wall Builders. And I've been doing a commentary on biblical citizenship for modern America. It takes you to an 8-week course, and I've been going through it. It talk about cool things about the founding fathers and stories and anecdotes. But this is something different. This is something a little bit more compressed and condensed. And this is going to be a 6-week class on the Constitution. I set up the registration today. There'll be a link in the description. You can sign up right now. It's free online. All the materials are free. Everything's free. It's going to be first day. It's going to be Sunday, November 1st, 6 p.m. for about 2 hours, I believe an hour and a half. And this can go all the way into New Year's Day, January 1st. So when the New Year kicks in, you've had 6 weeks of training. We'll skip Christmas, of course. We won't do that. We'll skip Christmas, and we'll skip Thanksgiving. But those weeks will be there. And then when it's done, you'll be equipped to do it, or even have your own class, whatever. And the point of that is that the Convention of States is something that I think this would be perfect for national voter ID, for paper ballots, and for everything in terms of a constitutional amendment to make it happen, because the president really can't do that. The states have the authority within the Constitution to do whatever they want. That's what it says. I think I'm not sure what article it is, Article 4, I think. Anyway, but the Supreme Court is going to be coming with a case pretty soon, hopefully clarifying that, so the states can take control of their elections without worrying about abdicating it to the Attorney General, Secretary of State, Governor, whatever, which happened in Pennsylvania, particularly in 2020. It became a total cluster. So anyway, the point is that I think that's a really good point that he made. I don't think that he'll have the power to do it, which is why I'm mentioning this right here. But he will have the bully pulpit to get that as a main talking point, and on the platform of the GOP. He talked about how the raid on Mar-a-Lago was, what it was, but he mentioned, look, Obama had classified documents, so did Clinton, and I believe a few others, and it was totally fine. In fact, Obama had a Supreme Court, an Obama justice actually upheld his being able to have those classified documents, because they're basically custodians. When you have it checked out from the archives, it's a copy, and as a president, you have access to that, and it's not a problem. So if Obama can do it, if Clinton can do it, then Trump can do it, but it's just a red herring. He mentioned that, and I bring that up because one thing Trump does is he calls people out. He just calls them out 100%. And I don't see many politicians calling politicians out the way he does. He just cuts right to the chase. He cuts right through it. It's not politically correct. He says what he has to say, and it resonates with people who aren't really political wonks, who aren't really into the ideology of the ideological terms that politicians use a lot. He just talks to you straight, and I think that's what really is refreshing. And so, again, we've seen a lot of this before, but he's rehashing an agenda that is something that is so contrary to what we've seen in the past 2 years. It's very refreshing, and it's new, because we are called back to a time when things were actually much better. Someone here texted on to me said that I feel safer already. We've been like raw meat to the wolves for the past 2 years. And he was being positive about America, talking about putting flags on the moon, American flag on the moon, looking to the future, being positive. I mean, that's something that we don't see much now. It's doom and gloom. And when it is a bright message, it's one that we don't believe. It's just a gaslighting thing. It's like hitting you on the head with a hammer and saying, it feels good. It feels good. It feels good, doesn't it? No, it doesn't feel good. Stop hitting with the hammer. But no, it feels good. It really does. I'm telling you, it feels good. That's what they do. They don't care. They're belligerent. They want to push their agenda down our throats because they know it can't pass the ballot box. And so Trump was basically saying, hey, that's what we need to change. Just this whole climate. Melania Trump, I'm saying this, is a soldier. He brought her up on stage, and she's had to go through this all over again. It's tough on the families. For the Trump family, everyone associated with Trump has been affected by this, except for Mike Pence, of course. Mike Pence hasn't been affected at all. I wonder why. Why hasn't Mike Pence been affected by anything? I'm wondering. So he'll probably announce soon too. Let me see here. Also the FBI, he mentioned the fact that the Justice Department paid him, this came out, that the FBI offered $1 million for an informant to lie, or a witness to lie about the fake dossier. That person didn't do it. And then that corruption was never really addressed. And that's pretty much, that's also a big thing here. He talks about the mandate in terms of the COOF and, the, I'm talking about, the medical procedure. He said, no mandates, and that people who lost their jobs should be reimbursed with back pay and all that. So, people who say, well, he's for it. Well, yeah, he's 87 years old. Back then, vaccines were like, that's what everyone had to be. You did that. That was the gospel. But this is a different kind of, what? And so, that's different. So, but we're Americans. We can agree to disagree, which I don't agree with them on that particular thing, which I don't disagree with them. I can disagree with them on like several things. Like, for instance, I didn't like the fact that he voted for the omnibus bill, but I understood why he did it. I didn't like the fact that he went after bump stocks, but I know why he did it, because it was a political football he played around. I don't think he deep down feels that way, but he did it for, political maneuvering. And he is a person who likes well-done steaks. I don't. So outside of that, I think we're cool. So, and so that's where I'm coming from. And I'm going to answer some questions here. I have something I got to say about John Quincy Adams here. Let me go over here to StreamYard here and just talk about who we have. Hi again. Let me see, new comments are coming up. Mark says, Biden again with this tech demo of neuropathy. See here, we had Ron and Don better get along. That's what we need. Trump for Ron for another 8. Yeah, exactly. I have a video on that. I'm not going to say much more on that. I'm going to let that video stand out there on its own and be my talking point for the Ron DeSantis deal. It's got about 2,100 views on it. So people actually like what I said about it. I didn't think it was pretty good video, but people seem to like it. I was honest. I wasn't trying to shill for Trump or trying to bash DeSantis. I like DeSantis. DeSantis is probably the greatest U.S. governor in American history. I will look around and see if I can find a better one. But given what's going on, he's probably the greatest U.S. governor in history. If you can tell me a better one or someone close or top 5, let me know. I'd be curious to know. Holly S., how are you doing? Let me see here. In Texas. What part of Texas are you in, Holly, if you don't mind asking? See here. Florida is awesome with Governor DeSantis as our red wave. Yeah, he did a fantastic job. He came on, he basically instituted a voter integrity force or task force. I'm not sure what they're called, but that allowed them to go after these people who were being, unlawful during elections. They knew about statutes. They knew about election laws. They knew about cybersecurity. And that's the kind of people you need in this new tech world, because a lot of things are going on that are high tech that can be done to manipulate elections, not only here, but also abroad. There's talks about Russia meddling in our elections as well. And that could be a serious thing, of course, but I think there are other problems with that, but I will leave it there. On this elections, I agree. Michigan, my parents are, okay, well, my parents passed. Prop 2 passed. I misread that. Nuts and bolts in Michigan, where my parents passed, Prop 2 passed, means no ID required. Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't think Trump can get anything passed. It would be federalizing the election laws. And that's not a good idea. But I'm pretty sure someone could draft a constitutional amendment. I mean, if we can have a constitutional amendment to federalize income taxes, we can do something of this nature. I mean, sure, it may be controversial, but I think the crux of our republic relies on safe and secure and honest elections. Period. I'm not either you do it at the state level or the whatever, offer incentives or something, or just make laws to say, hey, you do this is outright illegal. Opinions of the Supreme Court and appellate court judges need to come together with some kind of consensus of what it takes for a fair election. I mean, we have to say that you must have chain of custody. And maybe we have to identify what amounts to chain of custody. If a state wants to figure out the best way to do chain of custody, then fine, do it. Give them the freedom to do that. But chain of custody is paramount, period. You have to know who is voting. When the ballot is picked, you should be attract that person back to a person who's registered somewhere who voted, period. And if you want to do it through paper ballots where you have, an ink mark on there or a QR code on it, we can tie it back, which can be problematic, or just have same-day elections in general where you can't do anything other than show up and do it, whatever. But I think chain of custody is probably the number one thing that I would say would be the problem. And also voter laws. I mean, voter logs and voter logs and rolls need to be kept up and maintained. So anyway, I'm getting up on a different subject here. Let's keep going here. I noticed that YouTubers online have not bothered to even mention the stat proposal. What's the stat proposal? And let me know what that is, Mark. I'm not following you on that one. Genius versus fake Democrat. Okay. Oh, yeah. What a mess. Yeah. FTX was that exchange on crypto. And by the way, if you're on crypto, take it off, get a ledger or something that's going to keep it off a cold storage, or even paper storage is better than putting on some of these exchanges, because they can go tomorrow and all your money is gone. So if you're over a certain amount of money, you should take that off of the exchange. Now, of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Seek professional advice for your own personal security and financial future. So anyway, that's a disclaimer. Mark here says, forgive my grammar, Kyle, getting mauled by kids. That's cute. Trump held money into you because of possible money laundering. Well, we know. I mean, if we saw the movie, and I know that's not a good example. I mean, it's a form of comedy, a black comedy, but My Son Hunter was based on real documents, and Glenn Beck had actually covered that whole thing, outlined it a year before, and I did a video on that as well, highlighting what Glenn Beck was talking about. So all those connections with Ukraine, and even before that, Ukraine has been a money laundering, corruption a country for years. And that was one of the reasons why the current president is in place now, was because of corruption. They brought him in to say, hey, can you fix corruption? And that's why he was elected. So when Trump actually said, hey, you know what, I make a phone call to this guy on the premise of a 1994, I believe, Clinton Act, which gave him permission to talk to the Ukraine about corruption. It was a lawful thing that Clinton had put forth. It was a perfectly fine phone call, but of course the Democrats and the liberals blew it out of proportion and made it seem like it's something treasonous when it wasn't. And yet Biden does hot mic stuff all the time, talking about this and this, talking about how I'll do this for the election, this and that, and no one ever cares. The double standard is absolutely crazy. So yes, your point is very well taken. It's been known, I mean, going back to Burisma, I believe, that oil company, and it just so much stuff that Ukraine has got going for it or going against it. Trump 2024, state proposals again. Sorry for the grammar. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So that was pretty much the speech. And so, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the election coming up. As things pop off, I'm going to talk about it. I still want to get back into the culture of everything. But the one thing about Trump is this: Trump is culture. He is a generational phenom. He is a person who, when he walks into the room, everything gets sucked out because he's there. His presence, his charisma is just, it's world beating. And he grew up at a time when his parents played positive thinking audiobooks, were the power of positive thinking. He listened to that book, that audio all the time at home on a record player. And he's always thinking positive. He's always thinking that things can be done. He's always thinking of this old gritty nature of ruggedness that Americans had back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, which we've lost a lot of that today. So he's that guy. And so that's what he comes across, and he speaks to people who are downtrodden, have no hope whatsoever. I recommend you go look at a video from Tim Pool. It's with Milo Yiannopoulos. He spoke this past week. He spoke for about 5 or 10 minutes on Trump and why Trump is so powerful and why it's so endearing to his base and why people will almost certainly always vote for him if they if they were with him in 2016, because he made them feel a certain way when they were despondent, they were down and out in these so-called Rust Belt counties around this country that flipped massively to Trump in 2016. Whereas 30 years prior, they were going to Dukakis, they're going to Mondale, they're going to Bush, well, might as well have been Bush. No, I'm going to those guys, Obama and those people, and Clinton. But it flipped drastically in 2016 to go for Trump because of the paradigm shift of people saying, you know what, maybe the Democrats don't have my best interests at heart. Maybe this guy who is a billionaire, who comes from a industrial segment of society, when he's a builder, he deals with construction workers, he deals with blue collar workers all the time. And so maybe he understands what we're going through. And he is someone who was on the pop culture scene for decades, back in the 80s and the 90s and in the 2000s with The Apprentice. And so, yeah, so he was always that way. So anyway, that's why that video with Milo Yiannopoulos on Tim Pool was so profound. I might do a reaction to that as well. Check that out. But that is what he brings to the table. And that's why I think it's going to make him a very difficult candidate to beat. Of course, we have to fix all the rules and stuff, but he'll be a person that can actually talk through some of that stuff. The biggest problem we have is not the Democrats at all. The biggest problem we have are these rhino establishment Republicans. They are the biggest factor right now because they're the unknown. They're the wolf in sheep clothing. They're the ones who laugh in your face and then stab you in the back. These are the guys and gals that we need to look out for. The rhino establishment Republicans. And if I had time, I'll talk to you about the Whig Party, how they were colluding with the Democrat Party for decades after Jackson did his whole spoil system where he would bring people into his cabinet, his friends, his barber, his uncle, his nephew. And so what happened was when Andrew Jackson became president, he was the 7th president of the United States. He was I like Jackson. He had a lot of negatives, but I like him because he was a lot of bravado. But Jackson was like, look, he brought his own people in. And what ended up happening was, as the years went down from the 7th president all the way to the 15th president, there was a swamp building up in Congress. What's happening was you had people paying off jobs for postmaster general positions to their cousins and their families and friends for helping them on their campaign. In doing so, because you helped me on my campaign, I'll give you this postmaster general job. But what happened was, as you give up more jobs, there had to be more appointees. Government had to grow, and government was growing and growing and growing. It became a Ponzi scheme. So eventually, you had this massive swamp coming into the election of 1860. And yeah, Abraham Lincoln was the one who came in as an outsider on the 3rd ballot of the Republican convention because Chase and Seward and I believe the other one, I forget the other guy's name, they couldn't really coalesce because abolition was more or less on Seward's side and Chase was more outside of that. People want someone who's a moderate, and Lincoln didn't really have much of a position. He had done these speeches with Douglas back in the day about states' rights and abolition and all this, and so people knew who he was, and so they thought he was a safe choice. So Lincoln came in and wrecked the swamp just because as an outsider. And I see a lot of parallels with Trump in the same way. So with that in mind, I'm answering some questions. I'm going to talk about the last thing I'm going to talk about, and that's in terms of duty and why I'm going to try and give some encouragement to people out here who may feel a little down Trump can't win. He shouldn't be running. What's going on? Why should we be voting for this guy? What's going on? Or, or whatever. So let's see here. Okay. Trump cannot be seen as having anything to do with what happens next. Let me see. If you can clarify that for me, I would like to comment on that. I don't want to read in what you're trying to say, but I agree with you. I mean, we can't, I think I know where you're going with that, but we'll see. We'll find a way to twist it. Rhinos. Mitch the Turtle's got to go. He's got to go. I mean, his ratings right now, his approval ratings, which have always been in the 30s, it's like tanked right now. Everyone's coming after him. I think they want to say, who's going to run for the seat for minority whip Senate? Who's going to run for? Do we have a challenger against Mitt in the minority Senate? And do we have someone to run against Kevin McCarthy? Because I can't see him be speaker. I hope not. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Yes, Mitch didn't give any money to them. Nevada and Arizona could have used $4 million, $2 million in each of those states. That would have made a big difference. And they wouldn't. They first of all, Kari Lake. I mean, she should have won by 100,000 votes. Period. I'll leave it at that. The math worked out the first night with the counties that were out there, but somehow they came up with the votes somehow to make up a huge 100,000 vote difference. Similar to Michigan, where they made 300,000 votes in like a night in Michigan back in 2020. Well, we'll stop there. Okay. So anyway, so let me just say this about Trump. Look, I think Trump is the guy who has the bravado, the wherewithal to not only get reelected, but actually make a force for change. Because we know we're going to get with Trump. And so we know we have with Biden, and we know knew we had with Trump. So there's a clear, stark difference. We know that he can fight the battle. We know he's going to be the force, and he knows he's going to do what he does. He's going to call out people. He's going to do what needs to be done. He's going to do what he says, which he did before. So that, to me, should be half the battle. The other half the battle is bringing in people after the primary, because people maybe want to vote for Pence, DeSantis. It's going to be a matter of, can we bring the party together and coalesce around the umbrella? But I think the Democrats will do just enough to make everyone forget about this Trump DeSantis thing, because I think they're going to have more stuff happen, more misery, and more crime, or all this stuff. So people are going to be like, you know what, dude, you got to go. So whoever's at the top of the ticket on the Republican Party, that's going to be the guy or the gal. All right. So let me just say something real quickly here, guys, because I'm getting a lot of comments here. And I'll wrap this up here, guys. I'll wrap this up right here. We're going about 30 minutes. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Okay, so John Quincy Adams is the son of John Adams, a founding father. John Adams is one of my favorite founding fathers. He's a feisty guy. He did a really good job of preventing a second world war, really, a revolutionary war, because they wanted to go back to war with France, I believe, because of, I forget the actual issue, but he held off the position. The people who want to actually fight for war, he worked so that could be peacefully resolved, and it probably cost him a re-election. So that's John Adams. His son tried to redeem his dad, but his son had other problems too. His presidency was horrible, terrible, but he had a passion for the slavery movement in terms of getting rid of it. John Quincy Adams left the White House as the president of the United States, the son of a founding father. He went over to France with his father on a boat, and was there in the courts of France while Benjamin Franklin was negotiating, King Louis to give us the tools, material, ships, and everything to help save this country. He was there as a kid, and yet here he is now. He's now a statesman. He leads the presidency. What does he do? No, he comes. The lowest form of government is the House of Representatives. Well, we think it is, but really it's the most powerful because it's close to the people. But you know what I'm talking about. He's a House member. So he spent the next 17 years trying to end slavery. That was why he went into Congress, to end slavery. He thought it was an abomination. So he fought every single day in the House of Representatives, and they ignored him, they laughed at him, they scorned him. They said, "Look, dude, shut up, man. Okay, we get it. All right, you're against slavery. Fine. Can you shut up about it?" But he wouldn't stop. For 17 years, he went and saw no results at all. Zero results at all. Zero. And so people said, "Look, dude, why are you doing this?" Why? He had an interview with somebody. He came to him and said, "Look, why are you doing this?" And he was quoted as saying this. He said, "Look," he said, "Duty is ours. Results are God's." In other words, it's our duty to do what's right. It's God's job to sort it out and do what's ultimately do what's right. And so we've lost the framework of duty in this country. And studying the founding fathers, studying the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all these people and these great men and women, duty was a huge deal. It was something that was really, really important. And if you watch the miniseries John Adams, it came on HBO a few years back, they had George Washington. When they first met George Washington, they were coming to the meet in the Constitutional Convention. No, sorry, the Declaration Convention, or what do you call it? Excuse me. Jefferson was there, Washington was there, Adams was there, Franklin was there, all those guys. Anyway, when they met George Washington, he said, "Look, I'm going to give me an army, a militia, and I'm going to try to free Boston," because at the time Boston was being pinned in by the British. And then John Adams said, "Well, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate it." He said, "No, duty, sir." He was doing it because it was a God-given requirement. There's no option in duty. And so that's what we have to do. Regardless of what happens, we need to do what's right, regardless of the outcome. We may not see the outcome. It may be 30 years before we see this country turn back, or we may die before it happens. The Pilgrims came over from Holland, from England to Holland, over to here, laid their faces in the snow, died so that their children could step over top of them to move on. We're in a relay race. Okay, we have to look at it that way, because that's what's going to take to get this country and this world back on track. Hopefully sooner than later. But at the end of the day, that's what we have to do, and duty. So anyway, John Quincy Adams. So that was what he did. But 2 years of the 17 years, he was able to meet a guy who's a freshman in Congress who became his mentor. This guy was, they became really good friends, and he taught him everything he knew about, whatever, about the law. And they became such good friends that Abraham Lincoln became his pallbearer once he died, which, by the way, John Quincy Adams died he didn't die on the floor of the Senate. He had a stroke on the floor of the Senate. He stood up. He said nay to a clause that someone was saying across the room, fell to the ground. He was basically, laid out. It took him out to another chamber where he died a couple days later. And so, but he never saw the results of his efforts to end slavery. Never saw it. But he passed that torch on to Abraham Lincoln, and you know the rest of the story. And so that's what I want to encourage everybody to do. And that's kind of what I'm thinking now. What I want to do is look at this in terms of duty. Trump wins, Trump doesn't win. Okay, I'm going to do my part and let God sort it out. Because ultimately, what choice do we have? I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to be one of these people say, "Oh, no way, I'm going to give up." No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to give up, because I've learned too much about the founding fathers, the founders of the Declaration of Independence, stuff they've been through, had their houses burned down, had their people, families murdered, killed, because they signed a document. When they signed a document, they thought that was a document. They were signing their death warrant. These people who were all walks of life. They were rich, they were poor, they were farmers. They were not all the same kind of people. They were all over the place. And they just had this sense of honor and duty, and this idea of providence, that God was in control. And I can go on and on, guys, but check out the course that I'm going to give for the Patriot Academy. There'll be a link in this description at the end of this. It's free. Again, sign up and you can go ahead and check it out. Or you can go to True Social. There's a link there as well. And I'll be covering that in more detail later. So anyway, I'm going to go through some of these comments here and wrap this thing up. Okay, so cover some of this. Watch for the videos and recordings that's about to drop. They will not be able to hide. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. No, yeah, I think you're ahead. I think you're right, Mark. That's why I'm so trying so hard to, impair some sort of effort. I'm not sure if it's gonna. There's so much broken in this country. So much broken. We've gone so far from the Constitution. It's ridiculous. The founding fathers were so brilliant, but corruption set in, and good people let things happen, and here we are. But I'm hoping the pendulum will swing sharply enough back to the right so we can get some stuff done. What we need, in my opinion, is 8 contiguous years of solid American first leadership. Whoever it is, whether it be Kerry Lake, whether it be Trump, whether it be Don Jr., whether it be DeSantis, whether it be, I don't know, somebody we never heard of. I don't care. Solid first, America first policies, and away from this globalism, away from this, advocating our authority, because I'll tell you one quick story. The signers of the Constitution and the signers of the Constitution were scared of leaving the Articles of Confederation, which was the first document that held this country together. It didn't have any teeth to it. The states had all the autonomy. There was no federal government. You couldn't tax anybody. It was just a mess. It was falling apart. The country was falling apart. So they needed a new document. So they put forth a committee, but they had to lie to the delegates to come up to actually do it, because they said, look, guys, we're just going to just talk about something real quickly, just a couple of days, whatever. And it's not going to be anything major. Just coming up, we're going to talk about some ideas. And so when they got there, essentially they locked them in the room, closed the blinds, no one could see it. And for like however long it was, several months, locked them in there and said, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to work. And through that compromise, they ended up coming up with the Constitution. And that was what their fear was. Their fear was the states were, my point is that the states were fearful that they were going to give up their authority to a federal government. They didn't want to do that. That's one of the reasons why the Civil War happened, was because the states felt that they had an obligation to pull from the Union. That was always a problem. How do you have a federal government and autonomous states? And then you have to compromise. You have checks and balances. You have the Senate, you have the House. You have the representation on the House being for population. The Senate being, 2 people regardless of the size of your state, which at the time was judged by was elected by the legislators, not by popular vote. But that's another issue that I have with the Constitution being so far from where we are now. But that was the deal. And the same reason why they were fearful of the states being taken away from them by a federal government, we should be fearful of our rights being taken from us from a globalist government in Europe or wherever they want to have it. That's the same thing. It's the same paradigm. It's individual rights versus states' rights. Or, sorry, individual rights versus governmental. I mean, the state, not states, but the state, Uncle Sam. That's it. That's what's been going on for the past 250 years. That argument, even before that, going back to the Magna Carta. Magna Carta was the same thing with that. It was basically, look, we have rights, and that was where it came from. Even though we're royalty and we're rich, it still started the trend that individuals of nobility at least can have rights. But it didn't end up panning out to where we have now today, where anybody of any walk of life, race, creed, or religion can have those rights. And so it's a really fascinating subject. I'm going to look forward to learning more about this. Hey, Ricky, how you doing? Rick Y. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we have responsibility. I mean, we do have responsibility. Thank you. Thank you so much. See here. You follow the First Amendment audit community movement. Are you aware of the Constitution of law enforcement across our nation? I'm not sure. Send me an email at theconservativetake.com. I will happy to look into that. I am not aware of that, or you can put it in the comments here. I would love to look into that. Thank you for coming on. YouTube blocks my comments. I like your name. Staying with you. Thank you, sir. They don't honor it. They use the power of the state to steal. Yes, we are. Absolutely. Which is why, I don't know if you caught that. YouTube blocks my comments. I'm doing a series I'm going to show you something real quickly here. I can show you. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Yeah, let me show you this real quickly. So this here is one of the books that I'm doing. This is the Forefathers Monument. This book here is basically talks about the statutes in Massachusetts. It was left to us, well, not by the Pilgrims, but the principles of this particular monument are the ways that we can get back our country. And what it is the Pilgrims came over from Holland to England, England to Holland over here. They trained for 12 years, came over here, and they had these principles that they learned. And these principles were taught and put in this particular monument in graphical fashion. This was done in 1830 something, whatever, but it's based on what they learned. And essentially, if I want to just run through really quickly here, I go real quickly here. The top statue is Faith. She's holding her finger up in the air. That means, hey, there's one true God. She has a Bible at her feet, I believe. And around her, at the bottom of that, is you have 4 other statues, and they're in order. So you have to have faith. You have to have, I believe, you have to have morality. Through morality, you can have law. So the other statue is law, and the law must be merciful, not like the Aztecs. They cut your heart out. But merciful and just with equity, real biblical equity. And then you have, around that, you have morality based on the Bible. Then you can have laws to keep you safe. Once you have safety, you come around to education. You have a woman in her 20s with teaching her kid how to read. You have the grandfather next to her, who's a small statue. He's the patriarch, the real patriarch, teaching everyone else how to, teaching them the right way from his standpoint, based on the Bible as well. And the other side of that is liberty, which is dealing with, if you do all these things together, you can have liberty and overthrow the reigns of tyranny. And the liberty guy is a guy, he's a young guy, he's got a claw, a lion's claw over his shoulder. He's throwing off the Britain's rule. It's just freaking awesome, man. I covered this in great detail in my last video. If you're an insider on this channel, I have 3 out there right now. I'll make that public at some point, because I think it's too important not to let everybody see that. But for now, people who are paid members at any level, whether it be $1 all the way up to $10, you can get access to those videos. There's commentary. And if you're on Locals for $2, you'll see it there as well. But at some point in time, I'll make them all public pretty soon, once it's all done, probably. So anyway, that's that. And I don't know how I got in the subject matter. But this is what I'm talking about in my class. A lot of it is just fantastic. And Thanksgiving's coming up. The Pilgrims, they were awesome. So I get really excited, guys. I apologize for getting kind of giddy there, but it really is encouraging, because they went through a lot worse than we're going through right now. I'm sorry. We're going through some crap now, and we're at the verge of losing it all. So on that realm, it's bad. But they lost. They had this country spent at the realm of losing it all on 3 occasions: the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, and I dare say World War II. Maybe not so much the country, but it would have been bad had we lost Midway. The Pacific Fleet would have been probably destroyed in a couple of years. We would eventually won, of course, but it would have been a nightmare. Germany would have gone amok. So that was bad. But every 80 years or so, we have crisis. And now we're 80 years removed roughly from World War II, and here we are. And so it's our time, it's our duty, it's our challenge to don't let our grandparents, great-grandparents down. It's our time to take this country back and save our country for the next generation. So every 80 years, this happens. And here we are. So more comments here. I'll give you, if you go to the guidebook, you can, if you go to, if you Google Monument of the Forefathers Guidebook. Just do that. There's a whole website, which basically is that URL. And then you can see it. Now, it's not PDF. I got the PDF, but you can read it in good quality. And but next week, this Sunday, I'm going to be teaching on that in detail. And the week after that, I'm going to be doing one on Thanksgiving and why the Pilgrims were awesome. Okay. So that's all the comments we have. Yeah, it's awesome. Why isn't every state instituting service? Exactly. You know what? Trump had a policy that he was going to put in place, but I think it was through Secretary of Education. What's her name? I forget her name. But anyway, 1776 project. It was to counteract the CRT, 1619 revisionist, Marxist history. Basically teaching what you just said, civics and history. I mean, civics is a fantastic thing. It's scary because if you look at wall builders, according to David Barton, he said that, and I don't think, I mean, I can't believe this is true. He said like 30 to 40% of congressmen, of elected officials, can't tell you the three branches of the federal government. Oh, anyway. Let me share a link real quick for you, real quickly, guys. I'm going to do this real quickly. Just one more plug. I want you guys to come if you can. Let me pull it up here on my screen. Give me a second, and I end it. Let's go to my dashboard, and let me go to coaches dashboard, and let me go to classes, and let me go to the company Euro. Did that, did that, did that. All right, cool. Now it's on the screen. Let me share it. Let me get rid of this guy here, and let me present, share screen, share tab. Right here. So this is the class I'm offering. I'm not offering it. I'm basically hitting play. So I'm going to do intro in the beginning and at the end. But here's the link here. I'll put it in the chat if you guys want to click on it. I don't know if you can see it. It's not put up on the screen here. That's it there. But anyway, that's the class. And it's I'll read it for you guys. It says, join David Barton and Rick Green, constitutional experts and advocates for the original intent of our founding documents. In this one-of-a-kind course on the meaning and purpose of the Constitution, we'll gather together locally in our online, blah, 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 blah. Go article by article to the Constitution and Bill of Rights, learn about executive orders, recess appointments, the Electoral College, the powers of the Congress and the President, freedom of religion, the duty of citizens, and much more. Shot on location in Independence Hall in the same room where the Declaration of Independence and Constitution were written. Yes. It's fantastic, guys. I'm telling you. So if you can join, by all means, do so. Yes, if you're on Locals, go to Locals and go to. I mean, sorry, I'm going to pull up for you. Nope, let me do this. Nope, I can't do that. Let me see. What's going on here? Cancel. Let me pull it up here. So let me share my screen one more time. And let me just pull it up. Get rid of this comment here. Thank you guys for being patient with me. Where's that comment? It's gone. All right, here we go. All right, let me share the screen. All right, so here's the here's like the one we did this past time. This is part 1C. You see that? Okay. So this is what this is like. So basically, I'm taking a class called Biblical Citizenship in Modern America. This is not the same class. This is different. This is 8-week class, but I've taken this twice already. And so I'm actually going through the workbook in front of you, reading it and showing you stuff. And this is the face. The guy right there is the face of Liberty Man. The guy I was telling you about before. He's got a big lion's claw coming off of him, overthrowing the tyranny of England. But yeah, so I cover that. And if you can see in the notes here, oops. Let me get rid of that. So anyway, let me go back to that. So anyway, so I talked about, yeah, I bookmark it, and here's the one for part B. That's the monument as well. So we covered basically 2 episodes, actually 3 episodes, just on the monument itself. And then I have another one covering the beginning introduction of the class. So that's what it looks like. So if you join Locals for $2 or a one-time deal there, you can get access to that. Or you can get the first month free and use the code name Brandon. I think I have a thing for that right here. I used to have it up here. Do I have it still? Yes, right here. So if you come here, go to conservativetech.locals.com. That's the website. And use the code name Brandon. You'll get that for free. And if you want, wait till the whole thing's done in about a month and download them all. So whatever you want to do instead of, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's that. So, all right. So I've gone for about an hour, and I appreciate everyone coming on board, and I really appreciate this. And it's a lot of fun, and I'm excited about Trump coming on. A little nervous because whenever he's running for president, I get scared for his safety and his health and everything like that. Pray for his family. So that to me, it's just I'm always anxious when he's running or at a rally. So pray for protection over him and his family and everyone involved in that campaign. It's going to be a really tough battle. But again, duty is ours. Results are God's. So everybody, God bless you. I will see you guys in the next video. And God bless every last one of you. See you.